And some days we get together and just talk about records. And this is one of those days. I've absolutely adored. We've only done two of them so far, but I've adored them because one, well, by the time you hear this, one is probably released, so you've probably heard it. But everyone has their own way of tackling the perfect 10. Like, not everybody has the same guidelines to what makes and constitutes a perfect record. So that part really interests me about these perfect 10s, Andrew. So, as I always try to do, I'm going to get out of the way. What are the parameters for you? Like, what sets an album into that perfect record realm?
Okay. So again, thanks for having me, Justin. I always love coming on to chat about music. So for me, the way I kind of tackled my perfect tens was, for me, a perfect 10 is an album with no skips.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, there's lots of albums out there that I love that, I would be like a desert island disc for me or whatever. Um, but they might not quite make it to a perfect 10 for me, just in the sense that like there may be one or two songs that I skip on them or that I'm not like super fond of. So with these, I tried to just keep it to albums where anytime I listen to them, I listen start to finish. I don't skip over any songs. I don't find myself becoming bored with any part of the album. Like, a lot of albums will kind of drag through the middle or they'll have a little bit of filler in them. Like there's none of that on any of the albums that I chose. Um so using that criteria, I ended up having a list of almost 30 albums. So going from there, I tried to kind of separate everything by, I guess we'll say, vibes.
Mm.
Like there's rock stuff, there's heavy stuff, there's more modern stuff, there's classic stuff, there's sad stuff, and then I have like a whole section of like post punk, post hardcore stuff that kind of like I feel like is its own thing. So I tried, I think I mentioned to you, like I could have just come in and I could have had 10 albums from like between 1989 and 1994,
Mm.
but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of spread it out. Um, I think, you know, top to bottom, it's goes from like 1970-ish to I think the most modern ones around 2010, 2011. Yeah, it was once I had all the albums, it was really, really difficult for me to separate them and pick the ones that I thought at that point I wanted to make sure I didn't have like, nine rock albums and then one album that's kind of a black sheep or whatever. I wanted to kind of have a variety and think about it like, okay, if I can only listen to 10 of these albums for the rest of my life, I want to have some variety. I want to have, um, I don't want to be listening to samey stuff. Um, that being said, like everything I listen to for the most part is guitar music. Um, I don't listen to a ton of electronic music. I don't listen to a ton of hip hop, although, I mean, relatively speaking, I probably could have like snuck in like Liquid Swords by Jizza on here
Mm.
because I love that album, but I don't know if I would have felt good about kicking off any of the things that I did choose. So, um, yeah, so there's variety, but kind of in the sense of like variety among like rock adjacent genres, I guess you'd say.
I get that.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I guess I'll start off. Um, I just want to quickly mention a couple honorable mentions. So I was able to pull my top 10 out of those 30, but there were a few that I just didn't want to just kind of like pass by without at least throwing out there, mentioning that they're important albums to me that I really, really love that just didn't quite make it. Um, so I've got five honorable mentions outside of it. Um, and okay, so the first one is Elliott Smith, his self-titled album.
Mm.
Um, I love the self-titled. I love Either Or. Beyond that, I didn't really love when he started introducing like more instrumentation into the music and whatnot. I really like the stripped down sound of his earliest material. And just being, you know, 20, 25 years ago, I was a really sad dude. So of course I fucking love Elliott Smith. Um, After that, I have this band called Rainer Maria. Their self-titled album. They're kind of a, I guess you'd say post something. I don't want to say post hardcore because there's nothing hardcore about their sound. It's more like indie like, but I think they come from that same kind of scene of like, say, like a Sunny Day Real Estate,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they started in like the mid to late '90s, took a huge hiatus, and then came back in like the late 20 teens with a self-titled album. This is years after they had released something, and their self-titled album is absolutely perfect. It's
Wow.
super short. I think it's only clocks in at like maybe 30 minutes. Every song is great. It's so catchy. Like the singing and the lyrics are amazing. Instrumentation's great. Like it's simple, but it 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 keeps you drawn in, and it kind of like the whole album kind of reads like a story. Um, in that like all the songs seem like kind of feel connected, like they kind of flow into one another, and that's something I've always really loved in an album. Like I'm an album guy. I'm not a singles guy. Like I've always just loved putting on an album and listening to start to finish and kind of experiencing it as the artist intended for you to experience it. Um, anyway, next one is called False Lankum by a band from Ireland called Lankum,
Hmm.
which plays like Irish folk music, but they also incorporate noise and like drone music into it.
Huh.
Um, yeah, it's so good. It's so cool. The vocals are great. Like it goes from like, you know, almost like jaunty at points and like really like Irish and like upbeat to like absolutely like soul crushing. Um, and they're like big time, like the music is all very left leaning and left focused with the themes as far as like work and human rights and LGBTQ stuff, and all stuff that I really appreciate when I hear it. Um, Next one is one that I really didn't even want to leave off the top 10, but I just had to. It's called Beautiful Midnight by the Matthew Good Band, who I'm sure most of the listeners are from the US. So no one probably knows who the Matthew Good Band is, aside from like maybe one single. I think they had a single hit it big or big-ish in the States called Hello Time Bomb back in like '99.
Hmm.
The Matthew Good Band is what got me into rock music. I love Matthew Good, like back in the '90s and the early aughts. Like he was the dude. Like up here, we had like all these homegrown Canadian rock bands. We had the Hip, obviously, everyone knows Tragically Hip. But then we had Matthew Good Band. We had Our Lady Peace on Mother Earth. Um, uh, and like then Nickelback came along and all that stuff, and kind of that was like the watered down version of it. Like kind of just like meathead music,
Mm.
but I always found Matthew Goodband was really, I don't want to say intellectual because that's like, I don't know, they're not like sniffing their own farts kind of thing, but like they're they were always really good. The lyrics were great. The artistry was great. Like they really put work into their music videos to be interesting and be different. Matthew Goodband was they had a video for a song called Load Me Up, and it was off this album. And the band, you don't see a band performing. And that's something that they kind of made popular, I think, because I had never seen it before in music videos when I was young. Like every band, like their videos were performance videos, like they're performing in a weird place, or there's like a little movie going on, but then also the band's playing somewhere, type of thing. But the Matt Goodband videos very rarely were the band performing. It was always like a little, 3 or 4 minute play. Yeah, and I just, I I owe it to that band for why I really started to like music and even why I started playing guitar when I was young.
Mm.
Um, and anyway, last honorable mention that I really had a hard time leaving off as well is The Argument by Fugazi. Um, Fugazi's become one of my favorite bands over the years. The Argument, End Hits, um, Repeater, these are all like ends. Um, but The Argument is definitely my favorite just because of how different it is. Like it's got your like sharp and stabby, fast Fugazi stuff, but then it's got like, weird songs like Strange Light that are slow and they have really cool melodies in them, great vocals, and it just kind of like builds and builds to like a big climax. Anyway, yeah, The Argument, amazing album. Um, and it was really hard for me to cut it, but anyway, now that I've got through all of my honorable mentions, I'll get to the actual top 10, my perfect tens. Number 10 is in the same kind of region as Fugazi. Um, it's a band that doesn't get near the recognition I think they should. They had very little material, so there will never be a deprogrammed about them. I think they only have, I don't even know if they have 15 songs.
Huh.
Um, so I had to put them on the list just to get their name out there. I'm sure, John's probably very familiar with them. Uh, it's the album Yank Crime by Drive Like Jehu.
Oh.
Amazing album, like start to finish. It gives you that kind of 90s, your Fugazi, you're at the drive-in, that same kind of like everything's like sharp, and I don't want to say angular because that's like a friggin' music reviewer word, but like that's kind of a word that comes to mind because nothing in the music is like soft or flowy. Like everything's really like, sharp,
Hmm.
fast. The songwriting is great. The pacing is great. Um, Again, super underrated band. Anyone that wants to hear a song off the album, go check out Luau. Luau is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's like super long, very little lyrics, but it's just like so heavy and so perfect. I love it. Number 9. Uh, so this band, the first time I heard them would have been around the time this album came out. I'm gonna say 96. So I would have been 11 years old. I was still not huge into like music or anything. Like I listened to music when I was young, but it wasn't like a big deal to me. Like it wasn't something that captivated me. And I remember they're in the middle of the night at midnight every night on Much Music. There was a show called Much Loud, and on Much Loud they would play, you know, like heavy metal and hardcore and all this stuff. So I'd get to if I was up at midnight and I put Much Loud on, I would see all this like crazy music that just seemed absolutely insane. Like back then, like death metal would have like just sounded like nails on a chalkboard to me. Like
Mm.
my brain couldn't even comprehend it. But I remember always seeing this video, and there's these it's just four dudes in like this oddly like lit room, like with like harsh like white lighting, kind of like fading and not strobing, but like kind of fading in and out, and kind of the lighting goes weird. And these guys are all wearing like black slacks and like black sweaters or like collared shirts. Everyone's got black hair, and it starts off with this riff, this guitar riff that's just like and it's like it really draws you in, and then everything goes quiet, and the singer's like just screams, "Can I scream?"
Mm.
And it's New Noise by Refused. And I'll never ever forget seeing that video and hearing that song. Um, yeah, so my number 9 album is The Shape of Punk to Come by Refused. Perfect album, start to finish, like the perfect, like I guess you'd say hardcore album. I don't know if people really call it hardcore, just because of, when you hear Refused, you don't really think of like Minor Threat or Black Flag, but
Hmm.
um yeah, that was like my first introduction to like real like underground punk. I wasn't like in love with it at first, but it left an impression on me. And I remember years later, just seeing the album in a store, and I picked it up, and I loved it, and I still listen to it to this day.
I got to tell you
Um,
before, sorry to jump in here, but oh
yeah,
my God. Like, firstly, the timeline on that, I didn't realize that was 96, which like impresses me even more. Like, I, for some reason, had it as later, but I can relate on the first time I heard New Noise. I'm sure I said this on our Refused episode. I was just absolutely gobsmacked, and it really excites me to hear this record come up on a perfect 10. I love that.
yeah, yeah. And for me, like when I finally started to get into it, it was more like in my teens, like my late teens, and it was at the time when you know the kind of like watered down the stuff that they were calling screamo or whatever at the time,
Mm.
like The Used and My Chemical Romance and all that stuff. And I was like starting to get into that stuff because I wasn't, I don't know, I hadn't heard enough music at the time to really be like, oh, this is just a ripoff. But then, I listen to those bands, and then I get The Shape of Punk to Come, and it's like, man, this is absolutely like if it wasn't for this album and this band, like that whole thing probably never would have existed because it was just all like clones, like poorly made clones, but you could hear the influence in the music. Um yeah, okay. So I'll go on to number 8. Number 8 is another like I said, like with the post-hardcore, post-punk stuff or whatever you want to call it, like it was really hard for me. Like I kind of had an entire category for that stuff, and that's kind of what the first part of my list, like all of it is. Um, so this is another one from the '90s that I kind of came too late. It kind of falls into that same type of vibe. Definitely not as heavy as like a Drive Like Jehu or Refused. More melodic for sure. They definitely take influence from like melodic punk and like that early like emo. Um, oh my god, I already mentioned them. Sunny Day Real Estate. It's like that, but with some edge. Um, it's a perfect album. Again, start to finish, no skips. Like all the songs are great. It's For Your Own Special Sweetheart by the band Jawbox.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Yeah, it's just like all their material. I think they only put out 4 albums, but everything's great. Um, they've talked about reforming. I know in recent years it's never happened. I've seen them play. I've seen a couple like performances, live performances from the past few years online, but never any new material. Um, but yeah, just when I first heard that album, so what kind of led me to it was being a fan of Deftones, and Deftones put out that B sides like covers album or whatever years and years ago. I think that's what it was on, and they did a cover of Savory. And when I actually heard the Jawbox version of Savory, like I just, it was like love at first, sound. Um, it's one of my favorite songs. If I were to go into my last FM and look at like my most listened to songs of all time, it's definitely like it's got to be in the top 5. Um, yeah, it's just a great album, and I wanted to make sure I got to mention them as well because I know there hasn't been a deprogram done of them, and that's another thing I kind of wanted to do with this list was kind of like maybe shine a spotlight too on some bands that may not people may not be familiar with.
Mm.
Um, Again, I'm sure John and some of the other more seasoned punks would be familiar with this stuff, obviously, but yeah. So number 7, this is the only heavy heavy album um, that I have on the list. I spent many years being, I guess you'd say, like a metalhead. Like all I listened to was metal from like, let's say, like 2003 till like 2012 or 13. I was obsessed. I was playing in metal bands. Like I didn't want to hear anything soft. I didn't want to listen to the radio. I just wanted, riffs, fast, heavy riffs all the time. And this one kind of encompasses that for me. It's by the band Converge, which you and me talked about there briefly.
Mm.
It's not their their big hit, Jane Doe, which I mean, I love that album. I've got, you know, like a lot of punks, I've got the Jane Doe tattoo on my arm. It's the album that came after Jane Doe, which was more experimental, heavier and softer at the same time. It's called You Fail Me. Um, yeah, and that album just kind of made me fall in love with heavy music. I feel it's often overshadowed by some of their other material, like I mentioned, Jane Doe gets gets its flowers, and then some of their other later albums, or well, I guess not later, like late ends, early teens, like all we love, we leave behind, Axe to Fall, all great material. Like this band doesn't miss, but to me, You Fail Me is their masterpiece. Um, it's only 35 minutes or so, and it is just like pummeling, relentless, start to finish, aside from like a short break in the middle where they do like an acoustic track. Yeah, perfect album. Okay, so number 6. Um, it's by a band called Broadcast. It's the album Tender Buttons. Um, it's it. I can't really like. It's kind of hard to categorize what Broadcast does because there's moments when you listen to Broadcast and you think you're listening to, like a '60s band like Jefferson Airplane or the Mamas and the Papas, but they always have like this dark undercurrent to their music, and they also play like weird like 8-bit like synths throughout the music. So the the album Tender Buttons, it's so good. It's really beautiful. It's calm all the way through. Like it's a good album to put on if you're like trying to relax. Um, I believe it was their last album before. their singer passed away.
Oh.
I believe she passed away around. I don't even want to say. It's sometime in the early 2000s. She passed. Um, but yeah, they were just such a unique band. Um, and there's really nothing like them. So yeah, I would say like if you want a really unique music listening experience, definitely listen to this album or any of their other albums. Um, Number five. So this is my classic, um, if you want to call it that, I guess. Like, I had a few classic rock albums that I was throwing around. I was like, I really love Metal by Pink Floyd. Um, but this one is the one, you know, it's the GOAT. It's Harvest by Neil Young.
Uh,
Um, it's just, it's so good. Like every song on Harvest. Like I really love After the Gold Rush too, but there's just something about Harvest. It's just like it's warm and it's cozy. Um, Neil's just he's the greatest of all time. Um, I love Neil Young. He's just always always stood up for what he believes in and he doesn't back down. And, I think that's really great for him to be as old as he is. And even to this day, I mean, I don't really, the music that he's making nowadays is like, it is what it is. It's not Harvest. But, Neil he's never strayed from who he is. Um, and yeah, just this album's so good. And the closer, um, I think I had mentioned about uh, the Binner's Revenge. Um, how I mentioned, like, what about songs that don't even get mentioned in the episode? And in the Neil episode, it's been a while since I listened to it, but I'm 99% sure that no one uh, mentioned the song Words, which is the album closer. And I think it's Neil Young's best song.
wow.
Yeah, it's so good. Neil's the best. Um, yeah, and I can't really. There's not really anything else I can say about him that everybody doesn't know already. Yeah. Okay. So number four. Number four, I went with uh the album Bloom by Beach House. Um, so the the first time I heard Beach House, I was just completely blown away because I had never really listened to music like that. Um, just everything about what they do, like it's just beautiful, atmospheric. Like the guitars take up so much space, but not in a way that's like busy. It's like everything's really like washy, um, reverby, sprawling. Like, oh man, like they're so good. Um, and it's just my favorite album by them. And I can't imagine ever not being able to just put it on and listen to it. Um, and it holds a bit of a special place in my heart. So in 2025, we lost our cat. Her name was Ella. She was 16 years old. So the day that I got home from work and she was really ill and we knew it was time, you know, cats don't typically live that long from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we knew, let's take her in. And so we took her into the vet and I just so she would have a nice, peaceful experience on her last night, like I played this album for her and sat her on my lap and just kind of hung out with her. And we played it on the way to the vets and, you know, and then we went back from the vet without her.
Oh.
Um, and I still really, really, it's been over a year, and now I really struggle listening to it. I do listen to it, but every time I listen to it, I still cry because I think about her and how much she meant to me. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it was the perfect thing to play. I don't know cats like understand what they're hearing when they're hearing music or if it even registers to them. But to me, I just wanted something really pretty and ethereal for her to hear um, on her last day.
That's beautiful, man. That is
Yeah,
that's heart
thanks.
wrenching, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's and like I say, it's hard, man. Like I kick myself sometimes because I really love this music and I've like forever made it an emotional thing for me to listen to it.
It's now forever
Um,
forever tied to something really really sad.
yes, yeah, like I had a song, one of the songs come on a playlist the other day when I was working, and for my work I'm driving a lot, so I'm driving like long distances. Thank God I was in the middle of like a 4 hour trip somewhere, and the song came on, and I'm just like in my work van in my work clothes, and I'm crying,
Hmm.
just because it brings it back every time, even just like the opening chords to um to the album. It just takes me back to that day. But it's not. I don't want to say it's like in a sad way. It's just like you know, it takes me back to that day, but not that day. It takes me back to like all the days before that day.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Anyway, we'll go from one one sad story to okay. So my number three. Um, I've mentioned that I was like a sad dude in my teens and in my early 20s. Um, I listened to like 99.9% of everything I listened to was heavy metal. So this album was just my like nice little sad young man album. Like sad that I don't have a girlfriend, sad that, all my friends are moving away, sad that I'm fucking poor, sad that, you know, all my money's going to like, self-destructive behavior.
Hmm.
Um, and the album is The Con by Tegan and Sarah.
Oh.
Um, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Tegan and Sarah, another Canadian artist. Um, they kind of went in a different direction for the past decade or so with like the really like synthy poppy stuff, which is fine. I still enjoy that. But going back to the Con was like their dark album. Like it was like it just the whole thing felt really like isolated and heartbreaking, which were things that I really related to when I was, 22 years old. Um, yeah, and just like the words are great. Uh, Tegan and Sarah's vocal harmonies like are so good. All the songs are super catchy, and yeah, I actually after when I started doing this list, I was trying to think of like because I feel like when I was doing this, a lot of stuff that was coming up at first was like I had a recency bias to things that I love right now.
Hmm.
And I wanted to put things that I love right now or in the past 5 years or in the past 10 years on here. But then it would have all been like, music from like 2015 on. And that's, that may be who I am right now, but that's not always who I've been. And The Con is just an album that represents that person for me that I was once upon a time that I'm not anymore. I can look back and think about that young man who was, you know, lonely and sad and struggling with mental health and uh, substances, and you know, I can look back on it now in a different way because that's not who I am. I'm completely past that that part of my life, and I've came out of it a better person. But I can still look back on it like, and listen to this music, be like, man, yeah, like this is great. I'm so happy I had this to listen to in those times.
I,
Um,
sorry to jump in.
yeah,
I have to applaud this choice. I did not see Tegan and Sarah coming on
yeah,
anybody's list. Like, this is not to disparage Tegan and Sarah at all. I'm not all that familiar with their work, but you said Tegan and Sarah, and my first thought is Grey's Anatomy. There's like a very famous scene in season 1 where Christina Yang is losing a patient. It's the song "Where Does the Good Go," which I just looked up is the album prior to the con. But
yeah. So Joe.
yeah, and like I always make fun of it because like the spot that they chose doesn't make any sense. Like, look me in the eyes and tell me you find me attractive is the line. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's while a patient is dying. And I mean, the moment is more about Christina Yang and Dr. Burke. Like that's why the song hits so well. It's just the line that they chose is so weird. So that's where my brain goes when you bring up Tegan and Sarah, and then I think about it, and I'm like, actually, I really like that moment is great. The what they chose is weird, but I actually really like that song. So, like I said, I had to get in and say bravo.
yeah. So it was like I had a few albums that I had categorized as sad,
Mm,
and this one and Elliott Smith were kind of the ones that came to mind. And again, like I mentioned earlier, Elliott Smith, that album's great, but I came to that late. Like I came to that later in my life.
mm.
And Tegan and Sarah, you know, they are what they are. Like, but that album was there. It was there for me during that formative time. Um, yeah.
Critically
Uh,
important.
yes, exactly, exactly. So number two, um, this is, in my opinion, and I'm sure I might get some shit from some people in the Discord. This is the best punk album ever made.
Mm.
And it is a mix of like just pure aggression, but there's also like an experimental feel to a lot of it where they like kind of go into these strange instrumentals, and they have like weird like voiceover clips in the background and stuff, but like 99% of the album is just like pummeling, relentless punk rock. It is the Rohnert Park LP by Ceremony.
Wow.
um, and Ceremony is a really interesting band. um, they started out as like borderline like power violence, like super fast, like 30-45 second songs, just relentless. And then they kind of started changing gears around 2010 when this came out. And it still has that ferocity that their old stuff has, but it also kind of has like a newer artistry. Like they're trying to expand on what they were doing. Um, and then throughout the years, they just kept evolving, and now they're more um like synth punk. Like there's singing and there's harmonies and synths and all kinds of cool stuff in it. I'm sure a lot of people hate it. I absolutely love everything Ceremony's ever done, but the Rohnert Park LP is just a perfect punk rock album to me. Like it's flawless. I will never ever get sick of it. Um, yeah.
You heard the man.
So
You heard the man. If you disagree with what he said, hop into the Discord immediately.
Yeah, I'm talking to you about it. Tell me why I'm wrong. So, all right, number one album of all time for me. I mean, they're not my favorite band of all time, but this piece of music, however long it is, I mean, it might be 50 minutes or an hour or something, start to finish, like conceptually, musically, everything about it. It is the perfect rock album. It is Songs for the Deaf, Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And I will never, I don't think I'll ever change my mind about that. From the first time I heard it, when it first came out, I was still in high school. And, in high school, I'm listening to, like, after I had gone through my, like, Canadian rock phase, like my late teens, then I start hitting, you know, getting into Tool, Deftones, um, Rage Against the Machine, all the good shit. And then, and yeah, Songs for the Deaf came and it just like blew me away. Like it's so perfect. The production is perfect. The guitar tones are perfect. Dave Grohl drums his ass off
Mm-hmm.
on this album. Um, you know, it is it is all the members of that band at the peak of their powers. Um, you know, there's nothing that Grohl or Josh Homme or uh, Nick What's His Face or Troy Van Leeuwen that any of those guys have ever done that even comes close to touching this. Um, I don't even really know what else to say about it. It's just it's the perfect album, and yeah, it's the best album for me of all time.
You think I ain't worth a dollar, but I feel like a millionaire. Like the opening drums to that.
Oh man!
What the
And when it
hell?
when it kicks in, when everything kicks in, it's just like it's just like blows your hair back when it first happens.
Yeah. Whoa. And then like the singles no one knows is a scorcher. Uh Go with the Flow is I like Go with the Flow a lot, but like it's also very different.
Mm.
I I I again, I didn't see this coming. Um but I love this inclusion because it's conceptually anybody who hasn't listened, you're listening to radio as you go across the country, like different radio stations. So it is built into the concept that all the music isn't going to be exactly the same, but they are all equally excellent Queens of the Stone Age songs. Like it's I'm I'm so happy this came up.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. I know it's really mainstream, and I know it's like their big album. Like I debated you having Rated R, but if I had put Rated R in my top 10, it wouldn't have been number one.
Mm-hmm.
Then my whole top 10 would have been fucking topsy turvy. Like Songs for the Deaf is definitively like it's just unfuckwithable, as the Wu-Tang Clan would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Uh You've done it, friend. I again, my favorite part of these things is everyone has different criteria for what makes a record perfect, and that is going to shape what albums they choose as their 10. It's going to shape like the order that they put their 10. Um, I love that you gave a lot of love to either bands I've heard of but never listened to, or bands that I there were bands that you've mentioned today, if you include your honorable mentions, that I've never heard of. And this is a very band curious place. Like Deprogrammed is a very band curious place. Not just me. Like we attract people who are also band curious. Like that's the whole idea. And I think you may have turned some people on to some bands that that people have never heard of, and to do that in a top 10 list of perfect albums is pretty rad, if I may say so.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really, really do hope that, you know, anyone that listens to this and, they're like, oh man, I love such and such an album on this list. Like, go listen to everything else. It goes without saying, like, every band that I've mentioned today that there hasn't been a deprogrammed of, like, anyone, hit me up. Let's do it. Like, I'll cover any of this stuff. Like, I would love to. Um, yeah, this is a really good cross section of the music that has shaped who I am as a person and as a, quote unquote artist.
You heard it. The man wants to talk about Tegan and Sarah, folks. Let's figure out a Tegan and
Okay.
Sarah episode, and not even jokingly. Like that's
Yeah,
that's
right.
for real. So, hey, we love y'all, and we will talk to you all soon. Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Bye.